Costa, thank you very much. And on behalf of the Lobby for Cyprus, can I thank our three terrific speakers that we've had so far this evening, and thank you all distinguished guests for coming this evening. We've had three very different speeches, not just in the manner of delivery, but also three very different speeches in what they covered. And what I'm going to try to do in the next 10 minutes or so is just quickly to bring all these different strands together and to explain why what each of these speakers has said is so very, very important to everyone in this room, and what it means to you and what you can do about it. I mean, the first thing I want to do is to really pick up on Apostolides' speech, and it's quite right that we should do so, because at the end of the day, someone said this, I can't remember who it was, but he and Demopoulos and others have created history. And, for time to come, we will talk about the Apostolides case. You may remember last year I got very upset when people were talking about the Orams case. That's changed. The Apostolides case is how this is referred to. And if anyone was in any doubt at all as to how important this legal case was, you only had to look at the media on the 19th and the 20th of January this year. Now, I was very closely observing the media at that time, because as some of you know, I'm suing at the moment a very famous individual called J.K. Rowling. And we were doing so at about the same time as this case was going through courts, and the publicity that we got was zero. The publicity that Melendez Apostolides got from his case was phenomenal. I was seeing reports from China, from India, from Africa. It was all over the media here. People were coming up to me and saying, "Oh, have you seen this article about the case to do with Cyprus?" Interestingly, the only journal that didn't seem to cover the story was The Economist. But we all know why that is, don't we? But I think the reaction tells you everything you need to know about that case. It was groundbreaking in its significance. And again, I add my congratulations to everyone involved in that case. And what it's done is to now release all of the cases that have been in the pipeline for many years. This case didn't happen on the 19th of January. I don't know how long ago it's been planned, but it must be 4 or 5 years. There have been other cases that have also been in the pipeline and been planned for 4 or 5 years. The evidence of trespass was obtained several years ago by people like Mr. Apostolides. Private investigators have got all this evidence. The cases are now being processed in Cyprus. This is the first case, and it's the most important and the groundbreaking cases, but there will now be a flood of cases, in the same way that there was after Demopoulos' case. Now, I repeat what Mr. Apostolides said as well. These cases aren't being brought for political reasons. The reasons that they are being brought is because every single person that I'm aware of, and I'm sure it goes to everyone in this room as well, feels the same way about their property, about their land, as Mr. Apostolides does. And they want to do something about it. We aren't empowered to do anything else, so we have to resort to the courts. I find it very sad that there are those in Cyprus who seem to want to deny us the one weapon, and I use that word very guardedly, available to us. The only victories that we've achieved since 1974 have been in the courtroom. We haven't got a political solution. We all want one, but we haven't got one. What we have got, though, is a series of law cases which have preserved and protected the rights of the Greek Cypriot, and in some cases the Turkish Cypriot refugees. And I welcome that. And what you should be doing is now, if you want to do something about your property, taking action in the courts of the Republic of Cyprus in the same way that Mr. Apostolides did. If you need advice on how to do it, please talk to someone from Lobby and we will explain it to you. But it's actually very straightforward. You have to go and visit your property in the occupied area, find out what's happened to it. If there is someone there who may or is likely to have property somewhere in the European Union, so if they're a onto your land. You then start proceedings in the Republic of Cyprus courts. You get a decision that they are trespassing on your land, and then as a result of this case, you can take action if they don't give you what Cyprus court orders, action against the property of that individual anywhere within the European Union. That's what this case means. And so anyone in this room who has property in the occupied area that they think is being trespassed upon, even if it's by Turkey, I mean there's an issue there, can take action, and I would urge you to do it. And picking up on Counoupias' superb talk, if you believe he's been telling you about the rule of law, and he's been telling you about how the rule of law operates in the courts, and what the Supreme Court here thinks about it, if you also believe in the rule of law, you should be doing something to enforce your legal rights. Don't leave it up to other people. There's, however, since January been this other case that we refer to, the Demopoulos case. And this was a very different type of case. Now, I have my own personal views on this case, and I suspect that I'm in a big minority. But that's never stopped me before. I don't think this case is as bad as people think, actually. I think it's a very, very interesting case, but not for the reasons that people seem to be interested in. You know, lawyers have a habit of looking at the detail rather than the significance. And if you look at this case and you say to yourself, well, this case is about, you can't bring a case in the European Court of Human Rights and you have to go to the Property Commission, isn't it terrible? If that's your view, then that's fine. But I think you need to look a little bit further into what this case was about and how this conclusion was reached. And when you do that, you start to see some different things. And in a moment, I will try to do that. But the first thing that jumped out at me, and I'm trying not to get into too much of a legal analysis here, because there's too many of us lawyers, and we don't want to hear any more lawyers. But what has happened here is that Turkey has de-recognised TRNC. Now, people may not realise that, but that's actually what's happened. It's very, very significant. What has gone on here is that Turkey has said, okay, we agree. These human rights violations are not being carried out by the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. And that's what the European Court of Human Rights has been saying for many years. If you remember, ladies and gentlemen, the European Court of Human Rights in the Loizilo decision said that the TRNC is not a legitimate state. It is, I think they use the word, a self-administered autonomous province of Turkey. Subordinate, thank you for correcting me. Subordinate province of Turkey, doesn't make it any better. And what the Demopoulos case amounts to is Turkey putting its hands up and saying, yeah, you're right, the TRNC is just a province of Turkey. Now, that is an incredibly significant step. Who is the only country that's ever recognised the TRNC? Turkey. What has Turkey now started doing? Started to draw back. And there must be political reasons for that, I say. Another point which I would pick up on in the Demopoulos decision, which I think also shows how important that was, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, amongst the lawyers representing the government of Turkey in this important case, very important case, was, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me, was the former retired Chief Law Officer of the Foreign Office, Sir Michael Wood. He was the chap that was recently being interviewed in the Iraq inquiry about what advice was given to Jack Straw. But I would ask the question, was it appropriate that the former most senior law officer at the Foreign Office, albeit retired, should be part of Turkey's legal team in this case? I make that point and just also observe that the ex-wife of the British Prime Minister was also on the legal team for the Orams.
She's the wife of the ex-Prime Minister.
That's correct. That's correct. She might be his former wife as well. Thank you for correcting me.